This is Computer Science 1213, Introduction to Computing. I'm Chris Ridley, instructor, and this particular video is on assignment project 5.6, page 218 out of the textbook, and there are other requirements given in the assignment. So what we want to do in this assignment, it says in the book, to create a springtime scene that runs for a minute or so, starting with an empty field, but ending with the field covered with flowers. The flowers, quote, grow out of the ground as your scene plays. Make your program as short as possible by storing the flowers in an array. So the main point of this particular assignment is to use an array properly. The additional requirements consist of using 20 flowers using the sunflower houseplant object. No part of the vase should ever be seen. The flowers should show up in random locations. Use the grass background without any adjustment for things like rule of thirds. Call the array flowers. Number each array element such that each element name is the same length. For example, flower 09 would be one of the flowers, and flower 10 or flower 10 would be another one. And both of these names would be the same length. So those are the additional requirements, and the rubric is given in the assignment description. Okay, I've got Alice loaded here. I'm going to start a new project. And this is how your Alice program opens. So I'm going to pick grass. So that's where my flowers are going to come up out of. And this is our setup. So the first thing we need to do is we need to have enough flowers to show in our scene. The flowers are located in the prop class. I might be able to search for it. There it is. I put in sun and it came up. Here is the new sunflower house plant. Notice it has a vase. We don't want to see that vase. So I'm going to drag this out here. And I'm going to call this flower 1. Because that's a much shorter name, easier to handle. And I'm going to select all the text in the 0, and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to do a Control-C and copy that. Because the next thing I need to do is I need to pick another flower, another copy of the same flower, put it in a random location, maybe there. And now, when I get ready to put the name in, if I press Control-V to paste, flower 0 comes up, and I can put in a 2 and press enter. And that makes things go a little bit faster, less typing. Now I've got to pick a random spot for the third one. Come back over here. Again, Control-V, put in a 3. And I'll get number 4. Don't want to be too geometrical here. Put this guy over here. Control-V. And there's flower 4. And I'll get one more. You get the idea, I think. Put him right there. Control-V, 5, enter. Okay, I've got 5 flowers. You're going to have 20, but you get the routine of how to put these in. All right, Now, we need these flowers to grow, and so they don't need to be on top of the ground already. Over on the right, there's an item for the flowers, and let me go to the first flower, flower one up here, and there's a position line. It tells me where it's at. It has an X, a Y, and a Z. The Y is the up and down, just like on a graph. And it's 0 right now because it's sitting on top of the ground. And I'm going to put in -2 and press enter. Flower's gone. It went down below the ground, -2. So now I'm going to select flower 2 and put in -2. Oh, I put in +2. I want to be sure and put it in the right direction. -2. All right. Flower 3. Highlight that. Press the negative sign and 2. There he goes. Flower 4. So once you get your flowers set in a random location, you'll need to go through each flower, and you can click on them too. You don't have to select them from the list. And make them go down far enough to disappear. I found that -2 works fine. So now I have my setup. I have all my flowers out there in a random location, and none of them are visible. They've all gone down the same distance, that's important, to -2. All right, so let's edit the code. What we're going to do is create an array. And to create an array, we're going to use the variable control. And I'm going to call it flowers. And the value type is going to be, well, let's click this first. It is an array. And the value type isn't any of these standard ones we've used before. It's the gallery class. So let's click that, and this pops up. Well, all of our flowers are sunflower houseplants. So I'm going to click that. Notice over here, all my flowers that I created, and you'll have 20, are selected because they're part of this sunflower houseplant class. So when I hit OK, you don't see much. But now when I click the initializer, it's going to be a custom array. And I get a new screen. Move him over here. The type is sunflower houseplant. Now this preview, notice this is a new sunflower houseplant. That's the name of the original object. But right there, you can barely see it, are 2 square brackets, one open, one closed, indicating that it's an array. And because our array is going to hold strings of letters and not numbers, they're enclosed in curly brackets, open and closed, separated by commas. So when we add an element to our array, we'll add the first one. Now that one's there in between the curly brackets. Add the second one. Notice there's a comma right there. Then I have the second one. I add the third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one. And you would go on down and add all 20. When I finish, I hit OK. Now I have an initializer. I hit OK over here. Here's my array. I have an array made up of this type of object. It's called flowers, and it has these elements. And yours will go from flower 01 to flower 09 to flower 010 to flower 20. It'll just go on out here. You won't see most of it. So there's my array. Now I'm going to grab another control. For each N. I'm going to pull that up here. For each sunflower houseplant, which is what I've got here, the flower in flowers, okay, then I'm going to move, let me select the flower. I'm going to move that flower, whichever flower I'm on, I'm going to move it up, and I'm going to move it up, let's try 1.5. Okay, so when I went down, I moved it down 2. If I raise it up 1.5, that means 0.5 of it stays in the ground, which should hide the vase. So let's run this and see. Let me make it big, and we'll restart it. Oh, I can't make it big because you won't see it. I think I can make it 1.6 maybe. So let's change this value. You can play with it. Oh, I like that better. That's further up. So sometimes you just have to experiment and find what works. 1.7 works. I think 1.8 is going to be too much, but we'll look and see. Yep, 1.8 is too much. So let's go with 1.7. And that right there makes all those flowers come up. So most of your work is setting up and placing all of your array objects. Then you have to create the array. And this is the key line right here. For each flower in the array called flowers, move up 1.7. So they've each been created, they've each been named, they've each been planted, if you will, in a particular spot before you ever get over here. Once you get over here, it's not that big of a deal. So let's see, checking the rubric. I use the grass background without changing the perspective. I use an array. Yours should be 20 elements long, mine was 5. I had exactly the right amount of sunflower houseplant objects. I had all the flowers appear in random locations. I called the array flowers, and no part of the vase should ever be seen. So that takes care of the whole project. Oh, I was going to do one more thing. And I want to change this. Yeah, let's try this. See if this works. Nope. So let's take a look at this. One thing in your project, you're asked to attach some sound. I downloaded Beethoven's Symphony No. 6, the first movement. It's called Pastoral. And I put it in the play audio section for this. And I wanted it to happen the same time the flowers were coming up. I'll have to work on that a little bit. But don't forget about inserting a sound. Now, it doesn't have to be music. It could be a sound effect based on something one of your objects is doing, like a Yeti or a person or something like that. Or maybe a car. Maybe you can get an engine noise put in there. But you need to add an audio source, MP3 file, to your project. And don't forget the project is coming due soon. So I would say if you've gotten started, your idea is solid, and you've started coding, you're not in too bad a shape. However, if you haven't started, you're in a world of trouble and you need to get going. So this concludes this particular video.